There's another one.
Hit that with the most superb touch.
Hicks' first 100 against the West Indies.
A great applause for Graham Hick, 118 not out. Ray Illingworth said produce it, and produce it he did.
It's a short one, it goes for 4. Oh, they asked for it. Well, he's done it. With a century in his debut test. Joins a very select band of cricketers to do that.
There it is, 15 for Dominic Ball.
Yes!
He might be caught, he is. It's been a very impressive performance by Darren Goff. The England supporters have enjoyed it, but look at this young man. Oh, well, he got him! Oh, it's bowled in. It's in the air, another wicket. Elshed!
That's his first fiver in Test cricket.
A lovely shot from Michael Atherton to take him through to 3 wickets.
So Mike Atherton has made 100 at the Sydney Cricket Ground, his third 100 in Test cricket.
Acknowledgement to Atherton all the way round his home crowd.
Quite beautifully played. Shot.
And that is the 100. Well batted, Michael Atherton.
Nice innings indeed.
So that's Michael Atherton's 100.
Michael Atherton, England's captain, but also their best batsman. Like his predecessor in the job, Graham Gooch, captaincy has made him an even better player. His is the wicket that the opposition prizes above all when they play England. He has a solid test match game and the ideal temperament to go with it. Now, England captaincy hasn't always sat easily on Atherton's shoulders since he took over the job in 1993. But he grew up in a hard school in Lancashire cricket. He had to toughen up early on.
Yeah, obviously involved in the school system, but also played a lot of club cricket. Was playing against men at 13 and 14 in the Lancashire and Cheshire League, which is quite a hard school for a young lad to go through. And I thought that's probably stood me in good stead.
But look at your cherubic countenance. Do you think it's like Farrell lad, this lad's a knockover?
Well, as I say, I mean, it was a hard upbringing in league cricket. I remember an article some years back by one of the press guys saying, comparing me to somebody like Dermot Reeve, who'd been brought up in the kind of hard school of Hong Kong men's cricket, and saying, you know, he's got to be a tougher character than somebody who's been brought up in schools cricket. But it's just not the case. I mean, I'm a club cricketer in the Lancashire leagues. Obviously went through the school system and university system, and that complemented that.
At Cambridge, playing on decent wickets and against county pros, they were the two important things for you then, were they?
Well, to play against county pros, definitely. Again, as a young lad, 18, playing against men, certainly toughens you up. Old pros, if you like, and that's a good upbringing. The fallacy of good wickets. Fenners wasn't a good wicket when I played there. We'd gone through a poor period where the wickets had deteriorated since Cyril Coote had been in charge, and the wickets weren't that good at all. And in a way, I thought that was a good thing for me as well, because you had to learn to play straight, you had to get a basic technique, because you couldn't get away with the ball darting around off the seam.
When you came onto the staff, though, in fact, the next couple of years, you played for England at 21. It would seem, on the face of it, a gilded passage. Public school, Cambridge, future England captain, as they kept saying about you. Did you get much of a reaction to that image from your teammates here at Old Trafford?
A little bit to start with. It was a hard school. The likes of Fowler, Allett, these guys didn't make it easy for a young lad coming in, so you had to kind of give as good as you got. And I think, again, it's a toughening up process.
I suppose when you go into a county dressing room, Cambridge graduate, different interests, etc., etc., you can't afford to be seen reading a posh book or a posh newspaper in the dressing room.
No, I mean, as I say, after the early games, I came to be well accepted. I'd grown up with the lads of Nick Speake, Graham Lloyd, those guys. I'd played cricket with them throughout Lancashire schools, Lancashire Federation. We'd all grown up together. So they knew me as a kind of Lancashire player rather than a Cambridge University, England schools kind of player.
So you made your Test debut for England at Trent Bridge in 1989 against the Australians. You got a naught. The only way is up, surely.
Definitely. It was such a surprise to be selected at 21. The background to it was that Mike Gatting and his South African Rebel team had just announced their kind of departure to South Africa. England were being trounced 3 or 4-0 by Australia. So what Mickey Stewart, David Gower, the captain at the time, decided to do was go for some young lads, some fairly green players like Devon Malcolm, who made his debut in the same Test match as me. And when I look back at 21, I really didn't know anything about batting, and certainly at that level. And those 2 Test matches were really important for me. I got 0-47 in the first one and 10 and 15 or something in the second, and realised how much I had to improve, and spent the winter then under a little bit of tutelage from Jeff Boycott, improved my game and came back the next summer all the better for it.
Looking back in it now, Mike, do you think it was a good thing that you didn't go to the West Indies in 1990 with Graham Gooch? Because there was a lot of talk about get the young blood in, why are we sending people like Wayne Larkins, etc.?
I think in retrospect it was a good thing. I was disappointed at the time, but looking back, I think going on the A tour to Zimbabwe, nice little friendly bowlers on flat wickets, and probably did more because I'd changed my technique over the winter quite a bit, and I just needed a period of making sure that those technical changes were working for me, which they were, because I had a good tour of Zimbabwe, and I came back next summer and played really well.
In what way did you change your technique?
Little changes, really. Basically, I was at the back end of that summer getting caught a lot behind and in the slip areas, showing a lot of my stumps, and worked with Jeff Boycott, just getting over and getting into the line of the ball more.
So to Trent Bridge in 1990, you got your first Test match 100 against the New Zealanders, and it wasn't just 100, it was 150. Important to dig in and make it count.
Yeah, as I say, I got back in the side that summer. First Test match was at Trent Bridge against New Zealand, the great Richard Hadley. The rest of their bowling attack probably didn't stand up to Hadley, although Bracewell was quite a top-class off-spinner. But Hadley was the main threat, Danny Morrison was the pace bowler. So it was a decentish attack, and it was a greenish wicket. We were in some trouble and played quite well. Slow 100, but flourished after the 100 and got 150.
Was that the satisfying aspect, the fact you got 150 rather than 100?
Well, I'd have taken 100 before the start. But, as I say, once you got to 100, it was important to keep going and try and get a big one. And in the end, I gave my wicket away and was really cross with myself.
Now, the opposing captains and Test match bowlers say that you're a man, they've got to get out. You don't give your wicket away too much. Would you say that's perhaps the biggest compliment they can pay you as a Test match batsman?
There's different types of batsmen, and I'm the type who tries to dig in up the order. I mean, I try and play as positively and as aggressively as possible and run hard and things, but I think I'm a selective player. I know my game, know where my strengths are and where my weaknesses are, and I try and stick to the strengths, eliminate the weaknesses, and try and be difficult to get out. And as an opener in Test cricket, that's part of your job, to build a platform for other people.
You got your maiden 100 against Australia in the Sydney Test match on that 90-91 tour. I remember you had a bit of a spat with Ian Healy, the wicketkeeper.
Well, we had a few spats back as well. That's the way to do it. Give as good as you get. But I enjoy playing against the Australians precisely for that reason. They're competitive, they're hard, they're abrasive. But at the end of the day's play, you can go and have a beer with them and have a laugh with them. And that's the way I like to play the game. Hard on the field, but, be sociable off it.
Flick away down to that fine leg boundary. In the air, into the gap, that's 4. Well played. He's been waiting very patiently for this opportunity. So Mike Atherton has made 100 at the Sydney Cricket Ground. His third 100 in Test cricket.
That Leeds Test match in 1991, England beat West Indies for the first time for years. And I remember that game ended with a fantastic catch by you to get Courtney Walsh out.
Yeah, I didn't score any runs in the game, so I can't lay claim to any batting prowess in that match, but Gucci played fantastically, 154 not out, I think, carried his bat through and really set us up for a winning total on a seaming pitch. And Courtney Walsh came in at the end and blasted one up in the air, and I ran for the catch. It was never my catch, but don't know why I ran for it and caught it, and that was England's first victory over the West Indies for 20 odd years, and it was a great moment.
He wanted it, he went after it, and he's taken the catch. That removes the final obstacle for England. England beat West Indies here at Headingley.
A couple of years around 92, 93 period, you weren't playing a great deal of one-day cricket for England. One or two people were saying you lacked the flexibility just to change the way you play. Did that bother you?
It was irritating because you want to play in every game that England play, whether it's one-day or test match cricket. Regard one-day games as important. People come and watch them. They're good fun and I like to play well in them. And I had played well when I was selected. I was man of the series against the West Indies in '91 in the 3 games there. And
you helped England win that by 1 wicket in Edgbaston against West Indies,
yeah,
didn't you?
we won at Edgbaston. Myself and Richard Illingworth were in at the end. I only got 70, I think, but it was in the context of the game an important 70, and I got some runs at Old Trafford as well, and we won 3-0.
Coming in at number 11, he's done it. England win in the 50th over, and they've won by the narrowest possible margin of 1 wicket. And Mike Atherton, who stays there, he's on 60.
But you still, even now, Mike, you have a little wry remark when you've done well in the one-day game. If you're asked by the media, and you say, yeah, not bad, I can play one-day cricket.
Well, as I say, I enjoy it. I enjoy doing well in it. I had a fantastic series against the West Indies. Got a 100 at Lords and 90 at the Oval. And
that was a terrific 100 at Lords against the West Indies because you built the innings. The ball was doing all sorts of things in the first hour or so, and then you just fusillade the shots all over the place.
The wicket was a little bit damp because it rained that morning. Curtly Ambrose came running in, bowled a really good spell. The ball zipped around, and I don't think I scored for 40 minutes, but once we got going, you know, things kind of came right, and scored 127, I think, which is the highest one-day score, my highest one-day score, and had a thoroughly enjoyable day.
Dug in short and high in the air. That's going to clear Keith Atherton out at square leg. That's going to go for 6. Great shot. Made the space.
Just a few months before you became England captain, you went to India with England, and you barely played. You were a sort of peripheral figure at the time. Graham Gooch was captain, Alex Stewart was playing. Did that test your patience?
It's a trying time because when you don't play, it's frustrating. It was a disappointing tour all round because we went to India, we got beat 3-0, we got beat in Sri Lanka, the team wasn't playing well. Gucci was obviously coming to the end of his period as our captain. So the side was in turmoil a little bit, and not being able to be a part of it and contribute was disappointing, but you know, everybody goes through these periods in their career, and it's how you fight back that counts.
The skids were under Graham Gooch in the nicest possible way by then in terms of captain. Obviously, the sands of time were running out. He made no secret of it all. During that period, were you harbouring thoughts about yourself?
I was just keen to get into the side. Gucci didn't go to Sri Lanka. We all knew that the forthcoming Ashes series was going to be his last. He wasn't going to tour again. There was going to be a new captain installed. But my only priority at that stage was to get back into the side. I wasn't in the side. I needed to play. I needed to get some runs. That was my priority.
And you did so at Lords against the Australians, run out for 99. Now, I've often wondered this, Mike. Were you wearing spikes that day, or was it one of those half spikes jobs?
Half spike, but there was a lush bit of grass on the side of the wicket, and as I was sent back by gap, I kind of my heels hit the lush bit, and that was where the flat part of the boot was, and that's why I went.
You feel a complete pillock, I'm sure, as well, having to drag yourself up off the floor and go back to the pavilion.
Embarrassing dismissal. Fell over twice and, you know, run out in 99. But that was, if there was a turning point in my career, that match was it, because I failed here at Old Trafford, got 15 and 30 or something. I knew the selectors were looking for changes, looking to bring younger men in. People like Mark Lathwell, Graham Thorpe were pushing hard. And I knew that I had to make runs at Lords. I got 80 and 99, and that really set me on my way.
Turned the wrist on top of that. Really beautifully played by Mike Atherton.
That's nicely played. waiting for the ball to come to him. Match 50.
So England are 3-0 down in that Test series against the Australians in 1993. Graham Gooch hands in his stripes. He's no longer captain. It falls on you. You're 25 years of age. Did you think about turning down the captaincy? Do people actually turn the job down?
In the end, I don't think you do. People don't turn down the England captaincy. It's as simple as that. It's the thing that comes around once a lifetime, and you grasp it with both hands. But I did think about it seriously. I was up in the Lake District. Ted Dexter phoned up. He said, "We'd like you to captain the side." And I did think about it because the side was in an awful trot. We'd lost about either 9 of the previous 10 or 8 of the previous 9. We were in a bad way. And obviously you had to consider whether you were going to make a difference, whether you were going to improve things, or whether you might get an opportunity further down the line when the side was in a bit better shape. But basically I felt that the side was at rock bottom. The only way to go was up, and that's why I took it.
Since you became captain, Mike, has the amount of tension involving the job and all the hassles, has that amount of attention and media pressure, has that surprised you?
It did at the start. I don't think I was really prepared for the amount of attention at the start. Once you get over that start, you get used to it, and it's now every day. It's kind of nothing surprises me now. Nothing ceases to amaze me. What can be written, what can be said, the amount of attention there is on the England cricket team and its captain, and you get used to it.
But how much does it still bother you on the personal level? You're dubbed Captain Grumpy at times.
Doesn't bother me one bit. I mean. It came a little bit in South Africa, where I went out of my way a little bit to be unpopular out there. Sometimes I think it makes you play better when the crowd's having a go all the time. Certainly the crowd kept having a go at me and Corky at the end, and if you like, we were 2 people who had successful tours. So I think it's probably a sign that you're doing well if the opposition crowd doesn't like you. With the press, as you probably know, I'm pretty grumpy at times with the press. But I think you've got to be yourself. I mean, if you go into a post-test match press conference and you've got beat, and you go in all smiles, people will say you don't care and you don't give 2 hoots about whether you win or lose. If you go in all grumpy, people will say, you know, what's his problem? So I don't think you can win in many ways. And I've just decided really not to worry about it, be myself. If I'm upset after we've lost, I'm going to show it.
So as soon as you took over as England captain, you lost your first test at Edgbaston against the Australians. So at that stage, do you think the first thing we've got to do is stop the rot?
My basic thoughts on taking the job were that obviously the England side was in a bit of a rut. We'd chosen what we believed to be our best players and things weren't working. And I very quickly decided that what we needed to see was a more youthful, more vibrant England side, particularly in the field. So I decided to go for people like Ramprakash, Hussain, Maynard, good fielders, aggressive batsmen if you like. I felt that the England team was a little bit soft at that time. We needed to give as good as we were getting. So I wanted abrasive characters, aggressive characters. Again, the likes of Ramprakash and Hussain fitted into this category. And in a way, once we got to the end of that summer, I decided that the time for the likes of Gooch, Gatting, Lamb, Gower was over. It was time to move forward. That was my basic idea on taking the job at the time.
Yeah, but Gooch and Gatting were picked for Australia in 94-5.
Yeah, but the first tour that I was captain on was West Indies tour. And if you look at the makeup of that side, that was the kind of basic idea that I had, a youthful, zestful England side. And if you look at the West Indies composition, that was the type of side I wanted.
Sure, but 1 year on, 2 of the major batting places were taken by elder statesmen who, a year earlier, you were probably thinking were winding down.
Yeah, but you're being a bit mischievous, Pat, because you know very well that in that year that the makeup of the selection committee had changed.
We'll come to Raymond shortly. But you did stop the rot, though, at the Oval, 93. All right, it was the end of the series. Perhaps the Aussies had their mind on the flight, I don't know. But the point is, it was a very vibrant, positive display, led by Devon Malcolm and Angus Fraser.
We changed the composition of the attack. Devon Malcolm was the pace bowler, Angus Fraser, the kind of traditional English seamer. Steve Watkin came into the side, Peter Such was the spinner. We outplayed Australia throughout the match, really. Devon got flying in on a quick wicket. and we won the game quite easily.
And you batted positively too, didn't you, on that first day?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons for that victory was that we batted in such a manner as to enable us to bowl Australia out twice. We gave ourselves enough time, we scored quickly, we were rattling along at 5-6 and over occasionally, and that gave us enough time to bowl them out twice.
Having played such a lot against Australia in your Test career, having been on the wrong end of a few hidings, is beating Australia from a personal level the most satisfying Test victory?
Definitely. Myself, Angus Fraser, people like that had never beaten Australia because we'd played a couple of games at home, been on tour against them. We'd never beaten them, so the Oval was a fantastic moment for that. It stopped the rot. It was England's first win in 9 or 10 games. So it was a great day, yeah.
Lords, Mike, 1994 against South Africa, that first Test match. England lost, OK, but the most important thing for you was that dirt in the pocket saga. You were fined, there was a lot of mud thrown your way during that period. How close did you come to resigning the captaincy over that?
Yep, I suppose I was. That happened at Lords. A funny couple of days, really, looking back at it. Obviously, I had a week off to think about my position and whether I was going to get sacked or not. But we came back and did pretty well at Headingley in the Oval.
Would you have handled it differently in retrospect? I'm thinking of the Saturday night when the match referee was after you for your comments.
Oh, yeah, that was my mistake. I should have just been pretty straight with him. He's a fairly intimidating figure, Peter Burgeon. It's like being in the headmaster's study.
Yeah, but you're not exactly an effete southerner yourself. I'm sure you can look after yourself.
Yeah, I was pretty straight with him, but not entirely.
Why was that? Because I would have thought straight dealing would be something that you'd be just used to because of your background, because of the way you are. Why not just front up?
Well, I did. I told him I had no artificial substance or put any artificial substance on the ball. Took the trousers in there for him to examine them. Again, there's how you go with the laws and the regulations, whether you say that dirt from the footholes is an artificial substance or not, is, it's a kind of moot point. At no stage did the umpire say the ball had been tampered with, so I knew that there was nothing wrong with the ball. And it irritates me now, the fact that, you've been fined a couple of grand, whatever, and you see it a year later in a Test match at Perth, the umpire's actually changing the ball, saying it's been tampered with, and the match referee doing nothing about it. I mean, it's just a nonsense. So my conscience was clear in that respect. What the question was for me, whether the press, the atmosphere surrounding the England team, and whether I would be able to carry on in the job to the best of my ability in the kind of atmosphere that was surrounding everything going on. I decided I would be able to, and it was borne out by the fact that the England team came back and levelled the series.
How supportive were the England players to you during that period?
Very supportive.
And was that relevant?
Yeah, if they'd have all come out and said you should resign, then of course I'd have resigned. What I did was actually, we'll go back to Lords that Saturday evening, Illy, kind of said, come over and see me, there's something going on you should know about. I was straight with him, absolutely straight with him from the word go, everything that had happened, so he knew what had happened. And then after the match, after we'd got heavily beaten, I took Graham Gooch aside, he's the old pro if you like, he'd been there, seen it all. Took him into the toilets behind the changing room at Lords before the press conference and said, do you think this is a resigning offence? He said, absolutely not, carry on. So again, that was a nice thing. Spoke to the lads during the week, they were happy, so carried on.
And that 99 you got at Leeds in the next Test match, brilliant return catch by Brian McMillan. But that must have been satisfying that you could actually answer back in the best way with runs.
Yep, it was, again, in the game's context, we got 400 and odd. Got us into a strong position. I played well, got 99, it'd be nice to get 100, but so be it. And it was a good retort, if you like.
By that stage, your private life has been raked over by all sorts of people chasing you around in hedgerows and wherever you actually showed your face. How did you have to get an extra layer of skin during that period, and has it stayed with you as a consequence?
It was a traumatic period, really, for a week, being followed everywhere, and it was funny, looking back on it, there was some funny incidents, being tailed around the legs by a car,
Did you have the false moustache and the
I did a couple of sharp turns to lose a car somewhere in the lakes. That was quite a funny period, really, looking back. But it came good at the Oval when we beat South Africa.
Great win at the Oval, because England played so positively, not least of the way they battered you and Graham Gooch, took on Alan Donald. Fantastic stand between Philip de Freitas and Darren Gough on that second evening. I wonder how relevant that was in terms of changing the atmosphere of that Test match.
Changed the match without a shadow of a doubt. South Africa had got 300. Devon Malcolm only had one wicket, I think, in the first innings. We were up against it, 200 odd for 7. Gough and de Freitas came together, smacked the bowling around, hooking the bouncers. Really changed the atmosphere of the game, got us into the box seat, and Devon came roaring in and got 9 for in the second innings.
It was tailor-made for Devon Malcolm too, wasn't it? Quick wicket, and they didn't fancy it. And the atmosphere on that Saturday was almost like a cup final. It was so triumphalist from the England perspective.
Very much so. It was good conditions for Devon. It was a quick wicket. The South Africans at this stage were looking like a side short of confidence. Don't know why, but they somehow didn't fancy it in that second innings. Devon got it right, ran through them. We needed 200 to win, and we kind of got off on that Saturday evening at 7 and over, so that we won with over a day and a half to spare.
Was it a policy to get after Alan Donald?
Not really. Sometimes these things happen because as a batsman facing a quick bowler, what you try and do is you're trying to pump yourself up to make sure that you're sharp and quick, but you're also trying to draw the balance between not playing any loose shots. And I think we were both so pumped up on a quick wicket that we were just throwing the bat at everything. Gucci was not in great form. He'd had a poor summer against the South Africans, and he just thought he was in such bad nick, I think, that he was going to go out and smack the ball. He kept hitting Matthews over the top and things like that. And we got off to a flyer. Graham Hick carried it on, and we won with yonks to spare.
So to Australia again, another Ashes series. Erratic performances, you lost 3-1, you play well at Adelaide, won that Test match there. How would you sum up that tour, Mike?
We should have got a draw at Brisbane. It was a flat wicket. To get bowled out for 150 in the first innings there was devastating, really. Melbourne, we were well beaten. Sometimes that happens, but beside Australia played well. Shane Warne was in great form. Sydney, we could have won. We could have easily won at Sydney. Bad light at the end kind of maybe prevented us from doing so. We won at Adelaide and got badly beaten at Perth, where drop catches cost us the match.
Then to the West Indies series. Great effort by England, really. Still a talented side, the West Indies. Brian Lara and everybody else, Carl Hooper, Curtly Ambrose. 2-2 draw. That Lord's Test match, it was not just because England won, it was just one of the great modern Test matches, wasn't it?
It was a top-class Test match. The fact that we won at Lord's as well, which we hadn't done for years, it was getting on everybody's back, the fact that we hadn't won at Lord's for a long time. Dominic Cork's emergence as a Test match performer. First game, took 7 for 40, I think, in the second innings to win England the Test match. It was on a knife edge. West Indies needed 300 or so to win. Brian Lara was in overnight, so everybody was a little bit nervous, and we came through.
Crucial wickets, Brian Lara. Terrific catch by Alex Stewart.
Top-class catch. Darren Gough just ran one across Brian Lara, and Stewart took a tremendous diving catch.
A lot of people suddenly remembered business appointments in the St John's Wood Road area on that final afternoon. It was packed, wasn't it?
It was packed, which is, again, great news. Love to see a stadium packed, particularly on a fifth afternoon. The crowd were unusually noisy at Lord's. They're normally very laid back and very quiet, but they got right behind the England team and Dominic Cork on that occasion.
Now, I'm sure you rated Dominic Cork anyway as a top bowler before he came into the team. But my word, how could you have written that script on his debut, the best figures by an English Test match player?
Well, you couldn't write it into the script, and it was amazing that in the course of one game he'd gone from not an also round, but somebody who was in the frame, just getting his debut, to England's premier strike bowler, really, in the course of one match. Because in the first innings, I'd probably bowled him from the pavilion end, all innings, giving Peter Martin, who's probably a more senior away swing bowler, that end, and Angus Fraser, who wanted that end. And then in the second innings, Peter Martin bowled 2 innocuous overs at the nursery end, swapped Dominic Cork round, and he got all the rewards.
The rest is hysteria.
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, in that short space of time, he's become England's top strike bowler.
few weeks later, here at Old Trafford, he gets the hat-trick. What a time to get it, the first over of the morning.
Again, it was a period overnight where we were in the box seat, but we knew that we had to get wickets early, and a hat-trick in the first over. What more can you ask for?
That Trent Bridge Test match that you saved against the West Indies, the great thing about that, I would have thought, was that Mike Watkinson and Rich Dillingworth, they saved the day for you after the batsman had really given it away early in the day.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we threw it away. In fact, West Indies bowled very well.
Benjamin bowled.
Yeah, in the first innings, it was a slow pitch, and in traditional West Indian style, they came hurtling in and bowled short, and it was meat and drink on that pitch.
Graham Hick got 100.
Graham Hick got 100, and then
you got a few too, I think.
Yeah, I got 100 as well. Jack Russell got 90 or so, I think, or 70 or 80 or something. But on the final day, they cut their pace down, pitched the ball up, swung it. Ian Bishop in particular and Benjamin, and bowled really well, and we were in trouble. Richard Illingworth and Mike Watkinson saved the day.
Mike, Johannesburg, the 185 not out against South Africa, is that the most memorable time for you in your cricket career?
It probably is, in that it was a defining moment for me. It was a defining innings of, if you like, the way I play, and in the situation that we were in. It was a quick wicket, quick bowlers, a game to save, and obviously along with the other guys who all contributed, we did it, and it was a nice moment.
How important was it to have Jack Russell there? Because he's such a quirky guy. He talks to himself a lot, doesn't he? Irritates the fielders, for example. That must have been interesting, seeing him get under the skin of the fielders.
Yeah, he got right up their nose. He's left-handed as well, which helps, because they're having to change the line to me and him all the time. And he's one bloke who never gives up. He's always in there fighting. Even when the situation might seem hopeless and lost, he never gives up. And, you know, it's an attitude that you need.
I wonder if the moment when Gary Kirsten dropped you at short leg on 99 has stayed in your mind more than anything.
It has. I mean, I'd have been unlucky had he caught that, because, again, it was just a clip off the hip, off Alan Donald, who bowled a short ball, and I hit it pretty well, and it hit Gary Kirsten in the midriff and popped out. It'd have been a real death had he caught it. But he didn't.
Shortly after, though, the pull for four.
Yeah, next ball, Alan Donald again bowled a short ball. I mean, there was plenty of short stuff around in that series, and I knew it was coming, and I wasn't going to prod at it this time, so I give it a whack.
And remember, he's been out 11 times between 80 and 99. How many more there might have been, but this has been a brave one, a brilliant one.
That shot also takes him to 4,000 runs in Test cricket. The 20th Englishman to get there.
5x10. That's a magnificent shot. Jonty Rhodes is after it. He's pretty deep in his cover position, but not even he will get hold of that. Oh, tantalisingly short of Gary Kirsten at forward short leg. That's well controlled, and it's going to be 4 runs. And it brings up the 300, and at the same time, Michael Atherton's 150. South Africa becoming increasingly frustrated. Look at them, 5 of them round Jack Russell, but X10 drops too short and gets the treatment. And Atherton has got that one away for 4.
So you'd have heard all about the historic context of the innings over the next few days, everybody giving you little stats from Wisden that you wouldn't be aware of?
Yeah, I'd missed the next game at Pals, so kind of plenty of time to do interviews and things like that. It was a nice week. I mean, you know, to put in a good performance, probably the best performance of your career, and have people say nice things about it is great, obviously.
But what an effort by Michael Atherton in particular, and Jack Russell.
Well, that's right. Michael Atherton, he's been on the field for every ball of the match since 2 minutes past 6 on Friday, and he's only missed just under 5 hours of the entire 5-day match.
A marathon effort from Mike Atherton, and a great rescuing act by England.
I wonder how much it drained you for the rest of the tour, and the World Cup for that matter.
I don't know whether it was that innings, but certainly by the end of the tour I was pretty drained. What people forget is that South Africa had 5 months off before that tour. We'd had 6 test matches against the West Indies, which was a fairly draining summer as well. And then we had a back-to-back test match, Port Elizabeth, Cape Town, everybody was pretty tired at Cape Town, but we were giving our best. We bowled out for 150 in the first innings, but we had them 150 for 9 before a kind of crazy half hour or so which probably cost us the match in the end. And then, you know, the itinerary for the one-day international, 7 one-days in 13 days, such a crazy itinerary. And that was the most damaging part of the winter. And the World Cup, which came afterwards, we performed poorly, really, because the damage had been done in that short period.
Did you ever think you wouldn't go to the World Cup as captain? Did you think perhaps you'll take a sabbatical, just recharge your batteries? Did you ever think, I won't go?
No, I was up for the World Cup. I'd never played in a World Cup, desperately wanted to do well in it. I think probably felt that a little bit about the one days at the end of South Africa, because we tried so hard in that Test series and things had been on a knife edge for so much of it, and then we lost and everybody's a bit deflated, and then all of a sudden you're playing, travelling. You know, it's just a crazy itinerary and people were absolutely knackered at the end of it.
England's problem still seems to be, though, that it's one step forward, one step back. No consistency still, is there?
No, that's fair criticism. We're not amongst the couple of best sides in the world. You'd say probably Australia are the best side in the world, and then we're competing with the others probably just below that. But just because we're being inconsistent at the moment doesn't mean that you stop trying to improve your performances. That's what we're in the business about doing. We've got a new coach on board this year who I hope will help us out, and we're looking to improve.
How important is David Lloyd going to be in this new England makeup?
Yeah, he'll be important to the team, more than me, I think, although he will be a help to me. What we need is somebody to kind of run a real quality practice, innovative, one of a practice full of intensity, and that will be his main job. His second job will be as a coach to the individuals and talking to individuals and developing the team strategy. And he'll be a help to me in the fact that I'll have somebody else there to talk to and to kind of help me along when things are going wrong or being tough. And you know, the more help you've got, the more help around you've got, the better.
He'll make you laugh as well at important times when it's necessary.
Well, people get this out of perspective. I mean, the public persona image might not necessarily be the private one, and in the dressing room and around my teammates, I enjoy myself. Just because occasionally in a press conference I might not, is not necessarily, you know, the true story.
So, Mike, you must have a highlight in your career. OK, you're still a young man, but you've been playing for England since 1989. You've been England captain since 93. There's got to be a highlight there somewhere, hasn't there?
I think all the Test wins are highlights in themselves. People say they've not been enough, which is true, but they're all great times. The one for me was Barbados in '94. I had a side there which I was really at ease with. It was my type of side, and we won in Barbados, and the West Indies not been beat there since '34. Alex Stewart, twin centuries, Angus Fraser, 8 wickets in the match. Great Test match. A lot of English travelling support. For me, that was a highlight.
Phone taken off the hook in the hotel room, was it, by everybody after you?
Actually, we were travelling to Antigua that night, so we couldn't celebrate in the rightful manner, but we made up for it later.